Okay, we'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Wendy, you want to take the roll call?
Michelle Blythe.
Here.
Jen Schweddy.
Here.
Deborah Nelson.
Here.
Marilyn Ertley.
Here.
Jessica Stickles.
Here.
Don Vanny.
Here.
Mike Hobson.
Here.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the agenda as presented. Second.
Question?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we'll move into our first workshop item this evening, which is the Memorandum of Understanding with the Port of Everett. Paul.
Thank you, Mayor. Correct, this is a memorandum of understanding with the Port of Everett. The City of Arlington and the Port of Everett work really closely together on some mutual beneficial areas, one being the CIC. Of course, developing the CIC and getting the correct blend of manufacturers in there is advantageous to the city and the employment base here. But it also provides some mutual benefit to the port district, who of course is our deep water port, and supply chain is very near and dear to them. And so we've been working together for quite some time on different elements of this, and just thought that we should do a MOU to just memorialize the work that we do, and just put it in writing so that it's just clear that we try to work together. Commits us to nothing in particular other than what we're already doing. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions?
No, I would
Mike?
say,
Yeah, I was wondering, I thought I saw marketing as part of this. Was the marketing aspect part of this agreement that we have?
Yeah, in the event, we have that in there in the event that there might be something mutually that we could do as a marketing tool together. Say we wanted to advertise in a national publication or something that would benefit both the port and the city. It would just leave us room to be able to create that as a partnership.
Okay, that's a little more clear, because I was kind of wondering, why would we be marketing, because things are just going like crazy.
Well, and yeah, and we probably wouldn't want to, but in the event we do at some point, it's there. It was an idea of, what kind of things should we be looking at together, and marketing was certainly one that could be advantageous to both groups.
I see, thank you.
All right, Marilyn?
I guess I just wanted to ask if the relationship seemed to be going in the right direction. Obviously, if we're going to do this, it would be, but it's all that it was meant to be, kind of?
Yeah, and it is, and we've had a good partnerships. Mark's been involved in this, and so the personalities on both sides have worked together really well, and part of memorializing that in writing is just, things change down the road, and just make sure that, it's always there and part of the culture.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else have a question? Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is the low bid award for the wastewater EQ basin. Jim Kelly.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, council members. In 2019, when the city received the reissuance of its NPDES permit for the water reclamation facility, there were several items on there that the state wanted the city to upgrade at the plant. We contacted the original design team. We performed a design, permitted it through Department of Ecology, and offered it for bid. We received 5 bids, the low bid being from Clore & Sons in the amount of $1,460,978.06.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Jim on this?
I just want to ask, so the $1,460,000 whatever was in the sewer capital fund, and so we've been saving up for this, or?
Yes, that is correct. We always save a reserve. We did not budget the full amount. Prices came in higher than anticipated when we prepared the budget, but we do have sufficient funds to pay for this.
There'll still be money left?
Oh, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So that means we'll see a budget amendment at the end of the year.
That is
unless
correct.
Council pass it. All right.
Okay.
Any other questions, Don?
Yeah, Jim, looking at this, all these different replacement items and stuff and updates, is this replacements because they need to be updated, or are they getting to the end of their lifetime?
None of these items is a replacement because it's at the end of their life cycle. There are pieces of equipment that we change out quite regularly, every 5 years, every 10 years, but these items on here is new construction with the exception of the digested sludge pumps. These, when we rebuilt the plant, we kept the old pumps from 1998. They're pretty old.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Okay, Jim, we'll move to your next item, which is the low bid award for Lift Station 16.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor and council members. Lift Station 16 is going in the Cascade Industrial Center south of SR 531. It will be serving the new development that is going in out there right now. We originally were planning for a developer to construct this project. It got turned back over to us. We contracted with Murray Smith to design it and offered it for bid. We received several bids, the low bid being $1,349,073.20. We did receive a bid protest. The bid protest was deemed non-factual on its face, and we will be coming forward next week with a resolution rejecting the bid protest.
Do you want to give us any more information on what they were protesting in the bid?
They were protesting the fact that the contractor wasn't licensed to install a louver, a mechanically operated louver, which will open up to let air into the building when the generator fires up. The contractor has installed these. He does not need to be licensed. The electrician that he hired is a GC01, General Contractor 01, and he is licensed, he's certified to make connections to the HVAC system. Sorry to get too in the details, but
That's okay, it's good to know, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Jim on this one?
Yes.
Mike?
Yeah, who found it non-factual?
Strider Construction.
Ryder?
No, Jim, the question was, who found it to be non-factual? And
I'm sorry.
I would interject by saying, Jim and I reviewed it and looked at the legal requirements, and I confirmed that I believed it was not
That
factual.
you can, okay.
Or not legally warranted, I should say.
I see, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I too misunderstood the question. Don?
Jim, you stated that it sounds like it originally was going to be built by one of the construction firms or something out there that then backed out?
That's correct.
They've backed out of it?
Well, it was going to be a construction in lieu of connection fees. They have $2.2 million worth of connection fees, so they were going to offset some of their connection fees by building the lift station. When they got into it, they realized how complicated it was, and they stepped away.
So they'll be paying the full connection
Yes.
fee? Okay.
All right, any other questions? All right, we'll move to your next item, Jim, which is the Murray Smith Contract Amendment Number 3.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor and council members. This item before you is a request to amend the Murray Smith contract for the 2021 UPP design project. During the initial design phase, we added additional water main replacement as well as a lot more ADA handicap ramp replacements. And we lumped into this project the overlay of Smoky Point Boulevard, and WashDOT came back with quite a few changes on that project, which required additional work from Murray Smith. The amount of the change order is $18,125.
Any questions for Jim on this? Deborah?
So Jim, with WashDOT coming back to us, because this is Smoky Point Boulevard, So it's not a state highway. Why did they have, say, I'm just curious, is it because of where the money came from to do it?
WashDOT is our certifying agency. This is federal funds.
Okay,
So
that's
we
federal.
need a certifying agency to make sure that we design it per federal standards.
Okay, thank you.
Good question, Deborah. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Our next item is the apparent low bid for the 59th Avenue Complete Streets Project. Nova Heaton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members. So I'm happy to bring this item forward to you. This is the project where we went and we were awarded $600,000 in complete streets funding by the Snohomish. We were nominated by the Snohomish County Health District, and the funding came in through the TIB. We partnered with the Boys and Girls Club, who had received finance from the Department of Commerce in the amount of $519,400 to improve the parking areas on city-owned properties. So that would be the parking areas adjacent to Evans Field and the park there. And so all the, on 188th, next to the skate park, on both sides of the street there at 188th. This project includes a couple of crosswalks and some signage, some additional on-street parking and widening, street trees, lots of sidewalks. It's going to be a great improvement to our park system. We had 3 bids, and the apparent low bidder was Reese Construction at $1,035,287.09.
Thank you. Any questions? Jan and then Deborah?
Okay, so I know on the side for the Boys and Girls Club, but are we doing the same thing on the west side or east side?
Excuse me, Jan,
West
would
side?
you turn your mic on?
Oh, sorry.
So-
Is that both sides of 59?
It is only on the east side of 59th, near the Boys and Girls Club. We're only doing that one side of the road. There's improvements on both sides of 188th, and then the improvements extend all the way to Evans Field, that little park that's the farthest north.
Yeah.
So, but it does not include the west side of 59th. That was not in the budget.
Well, the reason I ask is because going out to a commission meeting and they're playing ball, they are parked right on the road. And they open their car doors, little kids get out on the road. And so I've been worried about that a long time.
That is a definite problem out there. This does allow on the east side, the shoulder will be widened and they will still be able to park on the road, but it'll be a widened shoulder that they'll be parking on. Whereas on the side you're talking about, they're kind of in a ditch and there's not really room to get all the way off the road. The way that this improves the situation, though, is that there will be striped parking in those gravel lots that currently exist. Also, we are moving the parking out into the field just enough so that we could get 2 full rows of parking and then a drive lane in between them on the park side, on the south side of 188th. So you should see a lot more parking. That parking will be much better used. We won't have those big trailers taking up the whole, they'll pull in and they'll take up like 10 spots sometimes. So it should really help with that. And then on the other side of the street there of 188th is that's all going to be 2 lanes of parking in there as well. And then with the sidewalks extending to Evans Park, that whole area will have a bunch more parking in it as well. And then you have good walking. Whereas right now, if you were to park in Evans Park, there's not a great way to walk across. Yeah. So within our budget and what we had, we really tried to make the most of the money we had. But that doesn't take away the issue of the other side of the street still needing improvements, and it does.
Okay, thank you.
Deborah, go ahead.
Nova, remind me when this is going to be accomplished.
So this will all be done should be done basically by Halloween, so beginning of November. It's just a 3-month contract.
Okay.
And as long as we're done with this project and the funds are, we're finalized on our obligated funds, we could get we could get nominated again,
That's
as long as
fantastic.
we're done by the end of the year. So
Okay.
I'm very
That's
hopeful
good.
that we
Kind of
will.
wondering about that, too.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Mike?
Yeah, I didn't quite catch, who was the funding source for that $519,400?
That was the Department of Commerce, and it was through the Boys and Girls Club. They asked for that and were given that money. But then they turned it over to the city to manage.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Nova? Thank you, Nova.
Thank you very much.
This will be a fun project to see happen.
I'm very excited about it.
Very much so.
Okay, our next item is a development agreement for the outpost at Smoky Point. Mark?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. So the first development agreement this evening is for the outpost at Smoky Point. And the developer here is known as Arlington 51st Street LLC. And so the development agreement, of course, describes certain conditions and uses for the subject property. In this instance, this is addressing the use of transfer or traffic impact fees, the use of park impact fees, and the use of utility connection fees for sewer and water main extensions, as well as the dedication of real estate for public right-of-way uses. So this project is located on 51st Avenue. This will be just south of Project Roxy. And so as part of this agreement, several things are taking place. The use of the traffic impact fees will accommodate the construction of a roundabout at the future intersection of 168th Street and 51st Avenue. So that's where transportation fees are being directed towards, is for the construction of the roundabout. As Jim kind of alluded to, part of this is connection fees are being utilized for extension of sanitary sewer and water main to serve not only this project, but the South CIC area as well. The thing that Jim was referring to with the lift station is really the construction of the wet well. BYK Construction is actually building the building that the lift station, pump, generator, all of that is mounted in, controls. So BYK did not want to do the deep wet well because of dewatering issues, and so that's why they turned it back to the city to put that under bid. Some of the other things that are occurring, the use of park impact fees on this property, because they have created a public park, which will be under private ownership of the development. And along with that will be the creation of the restrooms that go to that public park. They'll also do some areas in there for parking of food trucks and associated amenities to serve that also. So the building, which we call the community building, is the public restrooms and housing of that lift station equipment and backup generator for that. So those are where the fees are being directed towards as a part of this development agreement.
Question? Yes. I'll go Marilyn and then Jan.
Oh, so the impact fees that are being charged to the developer are going to the park and the other things. Is there additional funds that are coming from the city?
Towards these items? No.
And they will maintain the park, or it
Correct.
becomes, even though it's a public park?
Yeah, it has public access, so
Okay.
it's not just for the residents of the development itself.
But the city has no expense involved in this?
That is correct.
I love that, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was my question,
Yeah.
too. Thank you, Marilyn.
Jan, go ahead.
47th Avenue. Could you possibly explain where that is? I know where 43rd is, I know where 51st is.
It's right between, so.
But wouldn't that go through the Amazon property?
No, so what happens is this, 47th will come from Marysville into Arlington. It will then have a T intersection into the new 168th alignment.
Okay.
So it
So
won't
into
continue
this
the
project.
172nd, it'll intersect with the 168th.
Okay. And it will like continue all the way down to like 152nd or something?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious.
Mark, I have a quick question on the community park. Will there be amenities at that park other than a restroom? Will there be play equipment or things like that?
So it's mostly a passive park by creation, but there are amenities there. There are tables, there's a dog park in that location. Multiple things are going on, so there's multiple amenities. There really hasn't been, because there's other parks sites throughout the development itself. So there's 104,000 square feet of mini park also.
Yeah.
So the larger park site that is to the north of the project is really more passive park, and it's to accommodate food trucks and more of a, like I said, they're creating a dog park as part of this site in there, and so that's really what that is. In the other mini park areas, you'll see other amenities there for the uses of the apartments and the tenants of those apartments themselves.
Okay, and the dog park will be part of the public, open to the
That's
public?
correct.
That's great, because we don't currently have a dog park.
No, we don't.
We have dogs all over the airport trail, but no dog park. Any other questions for Mark?
I just want to say, this is a fairly large development. It's 500 units?
Yeah, so there's 500 apartment units, but there's also 70,000 square feet of retail space and another 22,000 square feet of office space. So it is a true mixed-use development.
Okay, sounds good.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll move on to the next item then, which is another development agreement for Centennial Park Phase 1 and 2, also a mixed-use development.
Great, thank you, Madam Mayor. Development agreement, this one doesn't have near as many items in it in the development agreement, but it does do this. I want to give some clarification about what occurred here. So when we originally approved Centennial Park, it was to be built out as one development itself. It's another mixed-use development. What happened was this, is that in the interim, WashDOT did a fish passage project across the street on the south side of 172nd. So Edgecombe Creek came down the hill, it crossed over to the north side, ran alongside this property, and then went back over to the south side, and then continued down south. Well, when WashDOT did this project, they neglected to abandon the old stream channel that was on the north side of 172nd, because it made it easier for their permitting process. And so when the fish passage project was done, the Tulalip tribes saw this as an opportunity to have a backwater area in the relic channel that was left there alongside the road. And so by doing that, it remained, a buffer had to remain around that relic channel. And so it wasn't an active stream, but it could handle backwater. So something, waters rose up, it could come back through the culvert and then backwater into this channel itself. So during this process, we had to then stop the second portion of Centennial Park and put it into a phase project until we could get this worked out between Fisheries, Department of Fish and Wildlife, the developer themselves. So finally we did, as a part of this, we did a buffer reduction of that relic channel because it was a non-active fish bearing, but it had the ability for fish to get into it during high water. And so we saw this as, they came up with a mitigation plan. Part of the mitigation plan was to do enhancements of that relic channel area. And then their option was to buy credits in the Snohomish Basin for wetland credits. We didn't think that was a best option for the city of Arlington, so we said, we'd rather you invest money into some of our resources up here. And so Williams actually owned a parcel of land that was at the headwaters of Hayo Creek, so behind Project Roxy. And so as part of this, part of their mitigation is done on site with the relic channel. The other portion, the off-site mitigation, is being done on the headwater of Hayo Creek, off of this other property that they own. So the development agreement addresses that. It addresses the reduction of the buffer. It addresses that dedication of property, which is off of the Williams parcel for the construction of 168th Street. And it also addresses, as part of their development with the mixed use, they did live-work units. So you'd have a commercial or retail use on the bottom floor, residential above in the same unit. Because they opted to use what we call a flex option, which does this: you build the building to a commercial standard, and then you have up to 5 years to do a market analysis. So if the market is there in order to support retail or commercial use, then the bottom floor gets converted to that. But in the interim, they can have that as residential uses. So, so this addresses that. It addresses the timeline, putting that in play so that we can monitor that up to that 5 years.
Thank you, Mark.
Seems rather
Any
complicated.
questions? Yes, this one was very complicated.
Yeah.
Deborah, and then Jan.
No, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
No.
So Mark, the bit about the Hayhoe Creek, because that's what I was curious about.
Yes.
So I haven't heard about that creek for a long, long time. It took me back years to when Bill Blake took me on a tour and showed me all the different creeks and things in the city. But is that a fish creek?
Yes.
So, like, is the project Roxy, does it go through that property too? Are they taking care of it? So it's not just gonna be this Williams company taking care of their one little bit and the rest of the creek is not gonna be passable for our fish, is that correct?
Yeah, so multiple things affect the headwaters of Hayhoe Creek. Project Roxy has property that is at the headwater. There's a parcel that will be, part of their property will be bifurcated by the construction of 168th. The piece that's on the south side, which is adjacent to the headwaters, will be conveyed to the city of Arlington. So that'll be under our control. That's where mitigation will occur as part of the 168th construction and as part of Project Roxy.
Okay.
So we'll have that piece. We're working with Williams in order to try and obtain all of the wetlands off of that property also. So once we do that, we'll be able to put all of this mitigation and enhancement into the headwaters here for Hayhoe. So it's a win-win. And we saw that early on. That's why we didn't want them to purchase mitigation credits out of the Snohomish Basin. We thought, why do that when we can enhance our own resources up here?
Thank you.
Just one other.
Go ahead, Deborah.
So is the future of those headwaters, that area, ever gonna be kind of like a nature walk or anything I'm just thinking of all the people living and working in that area?
And I'm glad you brought that up. So part of this, because there's multiple entities involved in this, Tulalip Tribes has great interest in it. Department of Fish and Wildlife has great interest in it. Stillaguamish Tribe has great interest in it because this is in the general location of the Longhouse. So we're looking at all of these entities and how this can all be combined in order to create a special place. Awesome. And so, to be able to have interpretive trail in there and interpretive signage and just to give some history of that whole Hayhoe headwater area.
That's awesome news. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle?
So, do fish use that creek now?
Yes.
Oh, so they do pass through?
Well, they come up, the headwaters, they can come up only so far into the headwaters there. So that's why we're looking at enhancement at the headwater itself. So the more rearing area, things like that could occur in this headwater area.
Yeah, and I think that's wonderful, like what Deborah said, just to make sure that, how great would that be with all the building that's going on, especially right there?
Right.
To create some
Well, we
serene-
do, with 168, there's a trail that goes adjacent to the roadway section all the way through there. So this will be a nice diversion off of that into this enhancement
Yeah.
area.
Thank you.
Do you have a question, Marilyn?
I did. Well, you answered two of them, Deborah's questions. But my other question was on that Centennial Park development, the buildings that face 67th, are those bottom ones, are they going to be retail? Or are
Yes.
people going?
Those
to-
are the live-work units that you
Oh,
see.
So they live above and work below?
Right, but right now, because they use the flex option that's allowable in our mixed-use code, they had to build it to a commercial standard, but they can utilize it as a residential unit currently until the market demand is there for it to become retail or commercial.
Who determines when that happens?
They have to do a market study and analysis and provide to us.
So they could just basically live there forever if they chose not to
No,
pursue
they
this?
will have to come up with a way to utilize those areas. So either they have, and they're a small business owner that, you know, occupies that unit. So they just won't be able to live there as residential forever. But
They
there
won't
are
be
also
able-
dedicated retail areas in those buildings. So as you move towards the southern end of the project, that's actual retail. That whole bottom floor is all retail.
So that is not the live work?
Correct.
The
It was not a
northern
flex, it
end
was
is-
it was dedicated for retail. Same with the phase two, the first building in phase two is also first floor retail.
And that's to the north, to the
That's
south?
to the east,
The east?
right.
The southeast?
Because what'll happen is, you see everything along 67, and then you'll see phase two going in an east-western pattern.
Okay.
And the
So-
flex period is just 5 years,
Correct.
so.
Yeah,
5 years. So after 5 years,
They need to convert it to some type of commercial or retail use.
okay. And the city monitors that?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Okay, Mike and then Jan.
Yeah, I'm surprised that there's no market for those residences at this time. In today's market, there's nobody that will move into those as residences?
Oh, no, they're occupied. They just aren't they're using it as residential use,
They are
not as
using it
commercial
as
use.
residences.
Correct.
Okay, I missed a step there, thank you.
Go ahead, Jan.
Just a question. I know that right now on 67th, there's 2 roadways into the development. Is there going to be from 172nd?
There is not, because there was in the original plan, but they've eliminated that. Everything has to come in off 67th,
Okay.
so that there is no access off 172nd.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Don?
I was just looking at the parking, Mark. I see that we got a total unit of count of 157 with a total of 192 parking stalls. Do we have a set ratio per unit?
So here's the way mixed use works with our mixed use development criteria, is that the parking is managed and set by the developer themselves. We don't dictate a minimum and a maximum parking. That's up to the developer because they know their market, they know what their product is, they know what the yield is. So it's their responsibility to come up with the correct parking for their development.
I was just looking at that numbers thinking, boy, if they start putting businesses down there, you got 1.5 cars per unit.
Well, and that's up to their management to curtail that so that you don't have, you know, somebody has one apartment and 3 or 4 vehicles, so.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mark on this one? All right, thank you, Mark.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so our next item is one of our favorite times of the month. It's our financial report. Kristen Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening, members of council. Our sales tax revenues continue to be strong. Our overall growth, comparing first half of 2021 to first half of 2020, grew over 16%, and we're 6% over budget. Retail right now is driving that growth, but we have seen an uptick in our services industry. The services industry alone also grew about 16% over that same period. Looking at our construction sales tax during that period, it did decline just slightly, about 6%. But even having said that, it is still represents about 18% of our total collections of sales tax, so still a major contributor of our overall sales tax revenues. In June, you may have seen in the financial report that the city did receive the first distribution of the American Rescue Plan Act. Our distribution will receive that in 2 different installments. The first installment was a little over $2.8 million, and the second one we expect to come a year from now, so probably next June. I did create a new fund. You hopefully saw that in the financial report, Fund 007, called the American Rescue Plan Act. I did that for a couple of reasons. One, I wanted to make sure to provide transparency so we can easily track how we're using those funds. We are in the process of developing a proposed budget for that, and I think we're anticipating bringing something back to council early fall, sometime after the August recess. A reminder that on July 6th, Council did amend the ordinance regarding the Public Art Fund, placing a cap on the fund balance. That cap is $200,000, and I just wanted to let Council know that the current fund balance as of June is a little over $242,000. So the transfers into that fund will be suspended until that fund balance falls below the cap. So I'll just continue to monitor that. And then just wanted to give council a heads up. Council will be recessing after next Monday, but we will still have the claims process. As part of in terms of the annexation, we will be making the first payment to North County on August 16th. So I just wanted to let council know you'll see that payment on there. That's part of the annexation agreement. And we'll go ahead and do the claims process as we normally do, even though council will be in recess. So you'll see the claims report the Thursday before what would normally be the normal Monday meeting. So I don't want you to have any surprises when you saw that payment on that report. And then the final item I wanted to talk about was in relation to our utility delinquent accounts. The governor did issue a final moratorium on utility shutoffs. That moratorium will expire September 30th. What that means is, according to our current customer support program, that would mean shutoffs would resume in November. That would be around the holiday time. So I would recommend postponing that and to resume shutoffs in January. It just didn't quite feel right to me personally to resume our shutoffs during the holiday time. That will also give staff time to reach out to customers, let them know that shutoff date will be coming in January. We will certainly let them know all the resources available to them. And as part of the American Rescue Plan, I'm also putting in a request to use some of that funding for a utility credit program, similar to what we did with the CARES Act funding. So hopefully we can get some of those balances down a little bit before we resume shutoffs. One of the other things the governor suggested was a repayment plan of 12 months. Our current program is a 10-month repayment plan. So what I'd like to do is to bring those two concepts back to council in September and amend our customer support program to resume our shutoffs in January and to extend our repayment program. So you'll see that again from me in September. That concludes my report tonight.
All right, thank you, Kristen. Any questions for Kristen? I'll start with Jan and then Michelle.
Yeah, I've got a couple, actually. One of them, at the last meeting, we removed the city from the library, and there are 2 accounts in there, library services that are over $19,000 and library capital improvement fund that's over $15,000. So what happens to that money now that we don't, quote, have a library?
So the library capital fund, unless we plan to utilize that money, which I don't think we intend to do right now, that would revert back to the general fund. So what that will mean is I will need to bring an amendment to council to move that money from that fund back into the general fund or to the capital facilities fund, wherever council might think it's more appropriate to go.
And is that the library services too?
So yes, so the library services is part of M&O's maintenance of that facility. So those costs will also go away.
Oh, okay.
We were holding on to that in there for a little while because we did have some repairs that I wanted to get done up there, and we found a different way to get those done. So had to do with that. We have that big heritage oak tree that's there, and it's destroying the sidewalk.
Oh, yeah.
And so one thought was to reroute that sidewalk maybe into library property just to get it away from the tree, because we're not going to win against that tree. However, working with Jim on the reconstruction of Washington Street, I think we're going to bulb it out the other direction instead of into the parking lot, so that we won't need the money. That's kind of what I was holding that money for, was to be able to utilize it for that if we needed it.
Okay, I was just curious where it went. Second, on the police-related expenses, thank you very much. My question, 2020, if I were, what they were saying in the papers, the courts shut down, there was nothing happening. So are you seeing that we're getting back to normal in all of these areas with the prosecutors and lawyers and all that we're paying?
I would generally say yes, but if you recall, we had a discussion, I can't remember what was that at the retreat, that one cost that you'll see that will go up quite significantly probably in 2022, although we could see it jump quite a bit in 2021, is our jail costs. The county restructured the contract, and we did an analysis that we could see a pretty significant increase. So you will see me bring that as part of the budget amendments. I'm planning to make an adjustment, certainly for 2022 to accommodate that increase, but probably for 2021. So what you see there in 2021 will probably go over budget on that line item for sure.
That was we did the analysis on that based on, if you remember from the retreat, on the 2019 numbers. That's a little over $500,000 increase in jail costs. We were able to get the county to split that over 2 years. So that's what Kristen's talking about. So we'll see some in 2021 and then the bulk of it in 2022. But it's a large hit to the budget.
Yeah, I just didn't think, we see it monthly, but until you see $1.5 million that the city's spending to take care of criminals.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have one last question. On the American Rescue Plan, do we know yet what we can spend that on?
There's quite a few broad categories. I guess I can sum it up. Basically anything that was impacted from COVID. So there's small business, we can do small business assistance, we can do assistance to households for rent, mortgage, utilities, other expenses if they've experienced a financial hardship. Child care services is in there, addressing homelessness, mental illness, anything public health related to prevent or otherwise mitigate COVID exposures. There's some hazard pay that's allowed for essential workers, and that's specifically identified what an essential worker is, and infrastructure specifically for water, sewer, and broadband.
Oh,
So
okay.
there's about 152-page guidance from Treasury. So
I'm happy to send it
that
to
was
Jan.
that was the short version. Did that help answer your question?
Yes, it did.
Oh, okay.
Well, I was just, and I saw the things about the electricity and the shutoffs and stuff. And what I was thinking was, is there any way that we can tell who the people are that really need, the help, that we could use some of this money to pay their electric bill? Or do we not have enough information on our citizens to know if they really need it or don't need it? Because I know that's happening. We all know that.
Right. We would know internally anyone who is low-income senior or low-income disabled, because we already offer a reduced rate for that. Outside of a utility customer, I don't know that there would be too many Arlington residents that wouldn't be a utility customer. We wouldn't necessarily have that data, but internally, I think we would have enough to do some outreach, and certainly with Sarah's help, we can get the word out to those that might not be a water or sewer customer.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Michelle, you were next.
Jan, you do such a lovely job recapping traffic. Maybe you could just send us all a nice recap the ARP uses. So the 90,000 that is outstanding, you're looking for relief to pay that because the clients aren't able to pay it at this time. So would that clean their bill, so to speak, and they'd be responsible again once it's paid? I mean, is that what you're looking at doing on that?
Yes, I'd like to propose something a little broader, not just specific to the delinquent accounts, because I suspect that there may be other households that have maintained current on the utility bill but has still experienced financial hardships. And, you know, maybe they're not able to put food on the table, or maybe they haven't paid their rent, but they paid their utility bill. So in line with what you're thinking, in addition to our delinquent accounts, I would like to open the utility credit program a little bit broader and probably have a max. I don't know that I would, you know, the utility accounts delinquency, you know, range from a little over 2,000, you know, down to 100. So I would probably put a dollar amount that we could apply to each account.
Do we know if all these outstanding accounts, if they've reached out for assistance?
There has been quite a few, yes, that do reach out actually quite regularly. Some have already signed up on a repayment program, but then there's some that we haven't heard from at all.
Thanks.
Probably just let the council know that all the mayors in Snohomish County, as well as the Snohomish County itself, has been talking about how do we make sure we're not overlaying each other with programs as we look at what we bring forward for the how to spend the American Rescue Plan. And so there are programs that are coming out of the state right now for mortgage assistance and rental assistance. Snohomish County has put a plan together around $80 million so far of their $169 million that they have. And so we're working with the staff and the directors to kind of go through all of that information so we can truly find where people might have gaps in service, or if there are other entities that are going to be funding, that we ensure that the organizations in Arlington have access to that funding. So there's just a lot of work going on about that. I thought I'd just let you know. It's more complex than the CARES money, for sure.
Yeah, yes it is.
All right, any other final questions for Kristen? Thank you for the excellent report.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and our last item this evening is the June Community Economic Development Report. Mark.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So in my staffing report here, Amy Rusko has rejoined the City of Arlington CED department. So it was, we were very happy to get her back. We enjoyed poaching her back from Stanwood in a great way. Some of the things she's working on is that she came back as a planning manager. She'll be working on the comprehensive plan update, the housing action plan and implementation of that, and the residential design standards and the manufacturing industrial design development standards. So we certainly enjoy having her back here, and everybody in the office loves it. So new permit technician Americia Lawless began working at CED on June 21st. Americia is backfilling the position left by Kristen Foster. I think she was a little overwhelmed by the amount of work that's being done in our department right now. But she's a quick learner. She has really picked up on things and is just becoming quite a great employee. So we're really happy to have her in the office. As part of training, both Kevin Olander, our building official, and Amy Rusko are enrolled in the how-to practical guides for supervisors. So this is an 8-week course that is actually interactive. So it's online coursework, but they have to interact with other entities across the state. So it provides for stepping out of your comfort zone. And, you know, sometimes they can be a little apprehensive of that, but it does get them involved, have to speak to other jurisdictions and understand that they're not the only ones facing the issues that they're facing. So it's been quite successful for them, and look forward to them completing that. At the CED department, would like to thank council very, very much for approving the planner one position. That's going to make a huge difference in our department, and we really appreciate that and that support from council. So Nova Heaton, with assistance from Lana Peterson. They've been quite busy this year. As you know, Nova just presented the bid for the 59th Complete Streets project. They've been working on that for, geez, 2 years now. Yeah, it's, you know, COVID didn't help with that, but definitely it's nice to see that coming to its fruition. So the other thing they've been working on, and I'm sure that most of you drove through this, was the demonstration project that was at the intersection of 180th and Smoky Point Boulevard. And so that was really there for a multitude of reasons. One is to show how traffic calming can work, but it also is it shows the innovative approaches in order to do traffic calming. And so this is one example of being able to do that. And of course, it's something new to people, and so, you know, they respond to it as something new and different and not quite sure of it. But it definitely did do what it was supposed to do. It reduced speed through that area and gave a refuge area for people to be able to cross safely on Smoky Point Boulevard. So more of those projects will be coming forward through the Complete Streets program. CED has entered into a professional services agreement with HKP Architects. And so this is to do the work to develop the development standards for the Old Town Residential District. If you might remember, because we're allowing for missing middle housing within several zones within the city of Arlington, we wanted to do this, and Old Town Residential District being one of those. We wanted to have some very exacting design criteria that people had to adhere to, so that if you were to build a duplex or a triplex or garden-style apartments, you would do it in a manner that would utilize 6 architectural styles that exist in Old Town, but it also puts it into the context of the neighborhood that it's going to be built upon or in, so it has to maintain that same massing, height, all of those elements. So if you're driving down the street, you don't know whether that's a large single-family residence or whether it's a triplex. So that's the intent behind these development standards. And so we'll start on that this upcoming month in August. They've got a bit of a late start, but we are still looking at getting the work completed by the end of 2021. Some of the opportunities, it was a kind of a frantic time trying to get all this right away under control for the 168th. Of course, we were bound by a date within the development agreement with Panantoni, so that added to some of the stress that was occurring there. But all the right of way is now under control, and we are good to go for construction to begin on 168th. Amy and myself sat on the interview panel with Sarah and Paul for consultant selection for the city's Park and Recreation Master Plan. Interviewed three firms, and they all three did a good job, but definitely the firm that we did select really provided for an outstanding interview and really came full circle in everything that they addressed during the interview. So it was, and then to find out that Beckwith is the same consultant who's working with HKP, the people we hired to do our development standards, to do the code work for that. So that was kind of nice to know. Some of the new programs that are going on, we met with Williams Investments. And this was regarding that parcel I mentioned about that's at the headwaters of Hayo Creek. And so they're looking at doing an industrial development on that parcel. CD, we've met with this individual several times. He looked at Island Crossing, he looked on 51st. He wants to build an indoor basketball and volleyball gymnasium. And so it would have the ability to have tournaments inside. It would have the ability to have practice in there. He just can't seem to find the right location for where he's going. But we did suggest that You know, if he steps his game up a little bit, he could look at maybe leasing something from the airport and build an attractive building there along 172nd to provide for this. So he went away scratching his head, and we're just waiting for him to come back in and tell us what he's doing. Grandview, who's done quite a bit of development within the city of Arlington, is looking at 3 additional sites here to develop. So site number 1 is along 67th Avenue. We refer to it as the Apple Builder site. So it's the little yellow house that's on the east side of 67th before you go up Woodlands Way. So it kind of picks up, there's a single family residence on the corner of 188th, 67th. This is the next parcel. And so it's, he's proposing a mixed-use development there. Site number 2 is the location on Smoky Point Boulevard. You may remember, this would be just south of the Les Schwab's. We refer to it as the Trailer Boss site, where the trailers were there for a few months on an interim basis, but we're really trying to promote him to do this in a certain way. And so it's a difficult site to develop, and he's not so sure that he really wants to step into this, but we keep pushing. And then site number 3, this is at the corner of 172nd and SR9. So we've looked at this site several times. This will be on the northwest quadrant of the intersection. So another mixed use there, where the property that faces 172nd would be the commercial retail, and then everything internal towards the north would be the residential development. And so one of the criteria with this project is that it couldn't all be apartments as the residential use, that they'd have to provide for townhomes also. And so they did come back with a plan with townhomes that face 85th Avenue into the existing development. And then the interior towards Highway 9 would be their apartments, would be interior of the site. And then, of course, the parcels along 172nd would all be commercial and retail. We also met with a representative of the Brown Bear Car Wash. We met with them on 2 sites now. And they're coming back in again next Wednesday to the site that's on Olympic Place. It would be that it's a weird little parcel that's just north of the Safeway building there. It's really a difficult parcel to develop, and so.
Yeah.
Where Dwayne Lane's used to be?
No, this is the Safeway on Olympic Place, so just north of that. Coming
Next to
back up.
Highway 9.
It's like a little wedge.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Car wash, huh?
yeah, well, we'll see. We told them that their design criteria was gonna be pretty strict, and so they said, okay, we're up to the challenge, so.
Would they have any impact, because that's a major fish creek right there too, you want to make sure they're.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and that's, as part of when Jensen Farm developed there, those buffer areas were actually created with a berm. So the actual berm is that buffer area. So then they have to meet the setback from that, the buffer area, so. Let's see, as part of this, so CED, we've been having ongoing meetings between WashDOT and Panantoni. This is over several items. One is the roundabout that will be constructed at 43rd Avenue, but it also has to do with the additional frontage improvements for Project Roxy outside of the roadway widening for 531. So they have we required an acceleration and deceleration lane at their entry off of 172nd. Plus there's a mixed-use trail that runs parallel to 172nd. And so we're just trying to get that oriented correctly and the proximity correct along that street frontage, so that those improvements aren't installed and then have to be torn out or demoed during the roadway widening, so.
Does the state get into that because it's a state highway?
The state is involved. We've been meeting with the state and Pan Antonio on this. As part of the Cascade Commercial Center construction, so this is North Point, if you remember, they began last week doing silt fence and mow bin in order to do the stream relocation at Edgecombe Creek. So Edgecombe Creek, as it sets now, runs through more of a agricultural ditch. And so, but it kind of runs in 90-degree angles across the property. They are removing that. They're putting it into a straight alignment that runs parallel to the Burlington Northern Railroad. But it's much wider. It's 130 feet, the entire corridor, 130 to 140, it varies. It meanders along there. So it's a huge improvement for Edgecombe Creek. It'll provide habitat for that stream that's sorely needed, so. And construction, you may have noticed, has begun at 4011 172nd. So this is the parcel on the Baker Moore site. So it'll be just west of the Seashaw Clinic. Anybody remembers that? Cedar Point and apartments are off to the north of this. So you see the activity that's occurring right in front of Cedar Point. So that's for the new Ever Clinic. And then Goldstream Ventures is another mixed-use project. This is on Smoky Point Boulevard. This is at the north, at the intersection of where Smoky Point Boulevard and 35th Avenue veer off there. So right across the street from the senior center. If you remember, there were all the issues we had with the mobile homes in there with nuisance and all of that. The first 6 of those are gone now. And so Goldstream will go into that location, take up where, if you remember where the old windmill used to be there, and the tractor, so that's one parcel, and then the 6 pads from the mobile home park are included in this development. So we go to hearing this Thursday on that site, so. And then upcoming things, coming to Planning Commission, we have some revisions, Title 20, related to zoning changes made through the 2020 docket process, and design review for Gateway Building F. Upcoming items for council are the 2 development agreements that you heard this evening, and then we're soliciting and we've received 2 bids on our workspace development within CED. So we're waiting for a 3rd for that, and then we will select that and come back for the budget amendment for that workspace construction. And that's the report for this month.
Thank you, Mark. That was a very thorough report.
Yeah, very nice.
Any
Thank you.
questions from Mike?
Yeah, I'm a little unclear, Mark, on the Old Town guidelines that you were describing earlier.
The standards, yes.
The standards. I thought we already had guidelines or standards for Old Town. Was that just for Olympic and McLeod and not farther up the hill, or what? I thought we had guidelines.
Well, those are for, they're basic, but they are primarily for the business districts. Now, there are some items in there that are applicable throughout the city, but these will be specific to Old Town and this will be specific to new development of single-family residences and then missing middle development.
Okay, so location, though, is going to be Olympic, McLeod, and beyond, or?
Well, no,
I
you're
guess I'm
still in the
not
business
totally clear.
district from Olympic up to McLeod. This will be from McLeod all the way up to Stillaguamish and above.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
And then Highland Drive.
Yeah.
All right, okay, got it.
All right, thank you, Mike. Deborah?
I just, as I was listening to you, Mark, and thinking about 168th, and also remembering having conversations several years ago when Nova and I were working on the Complete Streets stuff, and just a few years ago, 168th was like a dream. That was, I thought, oh, I'll never see that happen. So I just wanted to say thank you to you and the team. And I know Public Works has been a part of it too, but just to see how far you've come with all the negotiations, with the growth that's happening there, that we're actually gonna see that road built, not in 20 years or 10 years, but really just in a couple years. And that just doesn't happen. I mean, look at 173rd. We've been trying to do that for 10 years. So I just wanted to say I'm sitting here amazed that that's going to get done. So thank you very much for that hard work.
Thank you very much. We're pretty happy too. We like to see things come to fruition. It kind of keeps us going, gives us incentive to keep moving forward, so.
Yeah. That's good. Any other questions? Again, thank you, Mark.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Paul, do you have any administrative report this evening?
I just wanted to remind council that we committed in September to come to council with an update on the police 5-year plan and the legislative actions and the impacts that that's going to have on the police department. So I just wanted to make sure council understood. We're putting that together. We're still waiting on some information, risk management from WCIA and their work with Lexipol, who does our policies for us. We're waiting on that, but we are on schedule to come back in September and have that discussion in a workshop.
Good. Certainly is an active discussion everywhere these days.
It is.
I just had one thing this evening. I wanted to make acknowledgement. 31 years ago today, we did the American Disabilities Act in our country, which was based on the principles of inclusion and equity in our communities, and it actually provides a welcoming and accessible way to get around the community for all the people who want to live, work, and play here. So 31 years ago, and sometimes change is slow, but it really was a great thing. Do we have any comments from council members this evening before we do
I just
public
have one
comments?
quick thing.
Okay, I'll do Jan, and then Michelle, and then Dawn, and then Jessica.
I would just like to suggest to the council, because Paul just talked about the workshop we'll do in September, and what I didn't know was how many rules they've changed, and they've actually changed 17. So between now and September, I really, really encourage you to read all the information that's coming out from the state, from the police departments, from the newspapers. I was reading one, I think, that was clear across the country tonight. But please, and then even write down questions, so when we get to that time, that you will have questions about it, because it's super, super important. We need to have all the data.
Yeah, and I would direct the council to AWC's website for the legislative
Okay,
active
AWC,
report, yeah.
okay.
Okay, so I think it was Michelle, and then Dawn, and then Jessica.
So I have some comments along the same lines. Being on the Legislative Priorities Committee with AWC, that's something we talk about, and you hear comments from other elected officials across the state, since it impacts Washington State. And there's concern about how are these new procedures going to be implemented? Is there enough staff on police departments or with the police departments to make that happen in an efficient manner? Also, just the recommendations, for example, what are those things, cameras? Oh, yeah, the cameras are recommended, and there's a cost to that, and there's a cost of maintenance. There's all kinds of costs coming up for all police departments. So I think I brought this up several weeks ago. Just would really like to hear about your ideas, which I guess we'll do in September. But there's so many changes. It's amazing. It's amazing, like you can't keep up with them. You just start reading one bill and it's got like 10 different sub pieces to it, and it's incredible. I don't know how you're gonna take care of all that without help. So I'd really be interested in what the city can do for you, for any police department, cost-wise, what's that gonna take, honestly, and not just well, you're not going to be arresting as many people now because you can't really talk to everybody that you might think have committed a crime. But there's just so much more that's going to need to happen. So I was overwhelmed listening to people at the committee that I'm on and what cities are doing and what their concerns are. And there's a lot. There's a lot to do. And there's cost involved. So
Thank you, Michelle.
you're welcome.
Don, you were next.
I'm right in line with the last two. Yeah, I feel that, yeah, September, we need to really have some big discussions, the budget-wise for our police department. I can see reading all these bills from the very first time they started talking about them until they finished, that our police departments are gonna need a lot more help within their departments, just paperwork, documentation.
Yeah, I think they also need commitment from the jurisdictions that they work for.
Yep.
That we're behind them, and we understand the complexities of their job now and the challenges, and so they're gonna need that
Yeah,
support.
to give them the tools they need. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, Jessica.
Well, I agree with all the points that are being said, but my statement is a little different. So I wanted to read a letter to you guys, colleagues and citizens. Due to my recent changes in work and family, I will be moving out of the city in September. So I wanted to speak tonight on my final month in this council with a message of gratitude and honor. 8 years ago, when I was elected to represent the people of Arlington, Washington, I was a political newcomer. And I ran not to join the system, but to improve it. Through things like increasing the much needed staffing in our police department, to working with a large group on merging with North County Fire, as well as creating the smart development policies so rapid paced growth in the city had guidelines to make it clear to the developers how we wanted our city to look in 20 to 50 years. All with substantial transparency and a commitment to put all citizen voices first in my decision making. I've learned getting things done doesn't always mean being out front. And leadership requires tough choices, compromise, and collaboration. And I quickly learned that working together was the only way to make meaningful change. So I'm honored to have collaborated with many of you on delivering that change. Together, we upgraded the way our city repairs its roads, prioritized on saving repairable roads first, making roadways multimodal, safer crosswalks for pedestrians, and coordinating with other departments so we're not tearing up the same road twice. We changed the ability to build smaller housing on your property to make room for our lower income residents, young adults, and our older population. We created incentives for quality form-based development that is appealing to look at and fits the neighborhood charm. We were a part of the launch of the Arlington Resource Center and have granted hundreds of thousands to help our homeless, working poor, and families in need of assistance. And the monthly reports have shown that many of the citizens who use the ARC have been able to find permanent employment and housing with this assistance. I'm thankful to every one of you in the city leadership for showing up to the hard conversations, listening to all sides, and carefully considering the future effects of today's decisions. But most of all, I am thankful to the communities of Arlington. Being able to partner with the community leaders and deliver for our city has been a great honor in my life. Even though I will no longer be a city council member, I will always have a place in my heart for serving the people of Arlington. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Jessica. We'll talk more. All right, are there any members of the public that would like to speak to the council this evening? We'll give you 3 minutes at the podium. Go ahead, Everett.
I guess this is on, right? Okay. Number one, thank you very much for putting in the speed counters on Division. Along that same line, It's interesting this evening to hear about the September planned discussions on how to get more finances to the police department. I'm not sure exactly how you're planning on tackling this, but it seems like with the major businesses coming into the area, we should be able to get some more tax revenue to get some more guys on the streets. So, sounds like there's a guy in a green shirt down there that knows all about this. So I'll just say thank you.
Thank you, Everett.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who wishes to speak this evening? Okay, just before we end, I want to say, Jessica, it's been a pleasure having you on the Arlington City Council. I have always enjoyed your strategic approach and your thought to that, your open-mindedness, and the way that you brought different perspectives to the table. I loved what you said about teamwork. When you recognize that quickly, it's how the council moves and gets things done that benefit our businesses and our citizens. You're a body of equals, and so working together to collaborate and ensure you're hearing everybody, but coming to resolution on the best ideas. So thank you for serving the city of Arlington for 8 years, and I hope that your new job and your new home brings you as much joy as we saw you bring here.
So, Madam Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Second?
Do we want to choose any items for
Oh, yeah.
consent agenda?
Good one, Deborah.
I was just going to say that. I wanted it to go with 2, 3, and 4.
Jessica?
Yeah. Jessica's ready to move on.
Okay. 2, 3, and 4.
That's what I was going to suggest.
2.
That's all the public works items.
Yeah.
Just
Any-
number 1.
Any objection to 2, 3, or 4?
I think, I kind of like the citizens to know that we're working with the port.
Okay, yeah, so no
Yeah, I do
objection.
too, yeah.
I also think the contract amendments, really, I would stick, because you're asking to spend money over budget.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering.
I know.
Madam Mayor,
3 for sure.
the low bid award for lift station 16, that's the third item. That one will require that the council take action on a resolution you have not yet seen to reject that bid challenge. So I would suggest that that not be on the consent agenda.
All right, thank you, Steve. How does the council feel about tacking all seven items on the regular agenda next week?
Yeah,
I'm
let's
good with
just do
it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any objection to that? Okay. So there
Okay.
was a motion and a second to adjourn?
Question?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.